In 1987, in a small Italian town called Tropea, Father Gabriele, the Pope's personal exorcist, is called in to perform a chilling exorcism. He walks in calmly, wielding the sacred seal of the Church, trying to provoke the demon into revealing itself. Then he turns to it and says, "If you're really a demon, why don't you possess this pig instead?" Within seconds, the pig begins to thrash violently. It's been possessed. Without hesitation, Father Gabriele orders it to be killed. Just like that, the man is saved and the demon cast out. Another clean victory for the Pope's top exorcist. Meanwhile, in Castile, Spain, just a few months later, a woman named Julia arrives at a crumbling old abbey she's inherited. She's planning to restore the place and sell it, so she calls in a young local priest, Father Escobel, to help. Julia's son, Henry, hasn't spoken a word since a tragic car accident. One day, while exploring the basement where workers are repairing the structure, he hears a strange whisper coming from a hole in the wall. It's not just noise. Something or someone is calling to him. Back at the Vatican, Father Gabriele is summoned by church officials who are growing uneasy with his unorthodox methods. They accuse him of staging theatrics, question his authority, and even suggest removing his title as chief exorcist. But Father Gabriele, calm but fierce, fires back. "If I'm stripped of my role for believing in the devil, then you should all lose yours for denying the very foundation of this church." That night, Julia hears strange noises and rushes to her son's room. She finds him asleep and kisses him on the forehead, but when she turns away, something's not right. Henry suddenly wakes up, his eyes cold, his face pale. There's something inside him now, something inhuman. Down in the church basement, the workers stumble upon the same strange hole in the wall. But the moment they peer inside, it's like the gates of hell burst open. A blast of searing heat scorches their faces, leaving them burned and terrified. The restoration project comes to a screeching halt. Meanwhile, Julia's son suddenly goes into a violent seizure. When he wakes up, he claws at his own face as if trying to rip something out from under his skin. Julia rushes him to the hospital for a brain scan, but shockingly, the doctors tell her there's nothing wrong with him. No trauma, no psychological disorder. And then it happens. Henry, who hasn't spoken a single word in months, suddenly turns to his mom and says, "Mom!" She's speechless. Back at the abbey, Julia and the priests try to care for him, doing their best to bring down his fever. But the tension grows darker. Later, Julia's daughter opens the fridge. Zap! The power goes out without warning. Then Henry bolts upright in bed. Julia rushes to comfort him, but what she hears isn't her sweet boy. With a sick grin, he whispers disgusting things no child should ever say. He makes twisted, vulgar comments about his own mother, and she realizes this is no longer her son. Desperate, Julia begs Father Escobel to go in and try to calm Henry. But the moment the young priest steps inside, the demon throws him against the wall, cursing him with vile, unholy words. At the Vatican, the Pope himself asks Father Gabriele to take the case. This isn't just another possession, it's something much darker. When Gabriele arrives in Spain, he meets with Father Escobel, who instantly recognizes him. Then, with Julia's permission, he goes to see the boy. He walks into the room and looks the possessed child straight in the eye. "Why did you choose this innocent boy?" And the demon responds, "Because he's the perfect vessel to achieve my goal." Then it mocks him, "Your tricks won't work on me, exorcist. You're wasting your time." Father Gabriele holds up the sacred seal of the church, but the demon doesn't even flinch. No fear, no reaction. Something's off. Gabriele narrows his eyes. He asks its name. but the demon evades the question, instead trying to torment him emotionally, forcing Gabriele to relive his darkest memories from the war, reminding him of his guilt and past failures. Then, without warning, the boy vomits up a red bird, a symbol from Gabriele's past, a haunting memory. Realizing what they're dealing with, Gabriele steps outside and tells Father Esquivel, "We're not just fighting any demon. We need to find its true name, or we don't stand a chance." Father Gabriele continues talking to Giulia and finds out something crucial. Her son lost his ability to speak after the tragic accident that killed his father, and it left a deep emotional scar on the boy's soul. Meanwhile, Giulia's daughter is alone in her room, listening to music when she hears a strange noise. She cautiously walks toward her brother's room, and the presence inside is unmistakably evil. The demon is toying with her. Terrified, she runs back to her room. But just then, the phone rings. She answers it and hears her father's voice on the line, her dead father. At first, it sounds comforting, but then his voice warps into something monstrous. The little girl is horrified and tells her mom everything. Back in the main hall, Father Gabriele speaks with Esquivel. He explains that this demon feeds off their guilt. Their sins give it power. He urges Esquivel to confess, and when he realizes the young priest recently committed a sin, Gabriele doesn't judge him. Instead, he prepares him for what's coming, a full-force exorcism. Together, they need to stand strong. They begin the ritual. Together, they chant prayers, but the demon laughs in their faces, mocking their faith. Still, as the ritual grows more intense, it starts to burn. The demon screeches and lashes out, and suddenly it invades Gabriele's mind. He sees Rosaria, the girl whose death still haunts him. He blames himself for her fate. Then it turns to Esquivel, taunting him about a girl he once loved. The demon spits cruel, filthy words about her, pushing him to his limit. Father Esquivel breaks. He confesses right there next to Gabriele. He loved a woman. They were close to marriage, but when she asked him to leave the priesthood, he said no. "I'm sorry. I love God more than you." Just then, something clicks in Gabriele's mind. This demon isn't acting alone. There's a bigger plan at play. He runs out into the courtyard. There, he pries open an old well to investigate what lies beneath. Meanwhile, inside the church, all hell breaks loose. The demon starts attacking them one by one. It lures Esquivel into the boy's room, and as he leans in, the possessed child bites a chunk out of his ear. Then the boy flings his sister off the bed like a rag doll, and their mother, while asleep, starts choking, lifted by an invisible force trying to drag her into a black pit opening on the bed. Gabriele rushes back just in time. He pulls Giulia and her daughter to safety, but the horror doesn't stop there. Behind a locked door, Giulia's daughter is scratching at the walls with her fingernails, possessed, trapped, and the demon is closing in. Gabriele now holds a skull in his hand and asks Esquivel to follow him into the church's underground to find out why this holy place has become cursed. From above the old well, Gabriele points to a disturbing symbol, the seal of the Spanish Inquisition. He shows Esquivel the same mark engraved deep inside the hole. They dig through a wall hidden beneath centuries of dust, and what they discover is chilling. The remains of ancient exorcists, legendary priests, buried with secrets long forgotten. Inside one of the corpses, they find a key. It leads them into a sealed chamber where Gabriele uncovers an ancient book. And what's written inside shocks them both. The Inquisition wasn't just a mistake, it was the devil's own invention, a way to spread pain, guilt, and endless sin. Then Gabriele sees the name, Asmodeus, King of Hell. That's who they're fighting. Meanwhile, upstairs, Julia prepares a sedative, hoping to calm her son. But when she enters the room, she sees something terrifying. Her daughter is now under the demon's influence too, mimicking her brother's voice and words. As she tries to pull her daughter away, a shadowy force wraps around both of their necks, trying to strangle them. In a desperate move, Julia's daughter manages to jab the sedative into her brother, and the demon is subdued, for now. Later that night, Gabriele sits beside Escabel and finally confesses everything. He admits he faked his own death in the war, leaving his fellow soldiers behind. And then there's Rosaria. She wasn't possessed, she was just mentally ill. But instead of helping her, he ignored her pain, and she jumped to her death. Escabel listens in silence, and then, as a priest, grants Gabriele forgiveness. They kneel, they pray, and now they're ready for the final battle. But Asmodeus is more powerful than ever. As they begin the exorcism, the demon retaliates with visions. Rosaria appears, and Escabel's lost love, seductive, naked, taunting them both with temptation. Still, Gabriele pushes through and continues the ritual. He weakens the demon. The child snaps back for a moment and speaks, but it's grief. The child collapses, and on his body a horrifying wound appears. God does not live here. Then his sister is possessed. The demon tries to strangle Escabel while Julia is attacked by her own daughter. Suddenly, Asmodeus turns on Gabriele. It grabs his head and in an instant possesses him. But the moment it happens, everything stops. The children are free. They're safe. Escabel urges Julia to flee with them, and they drive off as fast as they can. Meanwhile, Gabriele, still fighting the demon inside him, tries to end his own life by hanging himself. But Asmodeus stops him. Instead, it drags him back to the hidden chamber underground. Escabel follows, and what he finds is chilling. A woman appears, glowing with divine light. Could it be the Virgin Mary? No, it's Rosaria, twisted by the demon into holy disguise. Escabel begs Gabriele to fight, but the demon laughs. Gabriele is gone. Still, Escabel won't give up. He raises his voice, louder than ever before, chanting prayers with full conviction. He lifts the church's sacred seal, and Asmodeus screams in agony. In a final act of strength, the demon shifts again, this time into Escabel's lost love. It throws him into the water, but he rises back up, holding the sacred symbol, and destroys the illusion. Now Gabriele, freed from the demon's grip, joins him. Together they chant, together they strike, and the demon is dragged back into the earth, sentenced to burn in the pit it crawled from. Afterwards, they're praised by the Pope himself. Escabel is officially assigned to assist Gabriele in future exorcisms and research on demonic forces. And finally, we learn the truth. Father Gabriele Amort continued his battle against evil until his death in 2016, leaving behind a legacy of faith and dozens of books on the dark art of exorcism.